The following program is brought to you by More Broadcasting. For more information, visit us at morebroadcasting.com. They won't take our calls, so we started our own show.
Hello, and welcome.
This is O'MearaCast.
Hello.
A show for Americans.
Hello, boys.
By Americans.
I'm Marc. This is O'MearaCast.
About our love for the Mike O'Meara Show.
We love you.
And all the shows on the More Network.
The Marc and Lowell Show.
The Marc and who?
Tech 411 with Oscar Santana and Todd Moore.
Here's your wonderful host, Marcus Serta.
This episode of O'MearaCast is brought to you by the Mike O'Meara Show's Amazon page, where now you can save up to 70% on all jewelry. Just in time for a great gift for Mother's Day, Father's Day, and graduations. And hey, if kicks are more your style, now save up to 60% on all athletic shoes. Save money and support the show by going to the banner at MikeO'MearaShow.com, which takes you directly to your account. Whether you're at home, school, church, or work, shop through MikeO'MearaShow.com/Amazon today.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to this week's O'MearaCast. It's a really special episode as I bring you an interview with Mike O'Meara. Mike, I thank you for coming on the show, and let's get right into it because I want to start with talking about your days on Don and Mike, and unfortunately, how it kind of came to an end. We all heard and understood with the death of Frida, the difficulty that it sounded like Don was going through, but it is brought up often lately around TMOS, around how you and Don don't seem to interact. So it brings up a lot of curiosity in the social sphere, and so I'm curious, and I know other people are curious as to whether or not, are you and Don still on friendly terms, or did something happen that you guys are you're doing your own things now and you've kind of moved on?
The answer to your question is we are on friendly terms. I don't communicate with Don with any level of frequency because of what the latter part of what you said, which is you kind of move in other directions, and I think it gets awkward based on the type of radio that we do and that we kind of do the same things now. But I had an email exchange with Don a couple of weeks ago where he had said some very nice things about me on his radio show, and somebody, a very, very nice listener, shared that with me because I don't listen to his podcast on a regular basis, and I don't think he listens to our show on a regular basis. And so that was the way I got it. I got it as a file that was sent from a listener, and I immediately fired off an email to him saying thank you, and we had a very nice exchange, and it's not frequent, but it is friendly.
Well, that's fantastic. And with that, you are on the course to add more affiliates. You've been talking about adding more affiliates. Do you think that there's any chance, now that Don is working in Sacramento, that there might be you back in Sacramento?
Well, first of all, that would be, Don is programming that station, and I would want to go many different routes before I would knock on his door to do that. I think that would put him in a very awkward position. It's not a position that I would put him in. And as I said, the affiliates are going to be nice if they come, but I still focus on doing this podcast. And, I wouldn't be knocking on his door at this stage of the game because we've got a lot of the people that we all used to work together. And I think that's something that that would not be my first choice, to knock his door down. He's doing his thing out there, and I'm doing my thing on the podcast. And we're both very happy with what we're doing right now. I know I am. And I am pretty sure he is. As I said, we don't communicate frequently, but no, we just get in and we do this podcast every day. But affiliates, as far as Sacramento, I'll take affiliates anywhere I can get them, but that would not be something where I would feel like I would be taking advantage of our relationship to go right to him. If we got a network established and there were lots of other affiliates around the country down the road, I would never preclude going on in Sacramento on his station, but right now that's not in any way at the top of my priority list.
Oh, I get it, and I understand, and I think the reason that I go there and I ask it is because obviously with the success that you had in Reno, you have still an extremely strong following, and it does stem from what you and Don did for over 20 years.
I agree, and we had a tremendous run out there, and we enjoyed ourselves, and it was fun, and I love the fact that we've still got a lot of people on the West Coast that listen to the show and they enjoy the show and they like what I'm doing. I'm very happy about that.
No, what you're doing is the best that I've said this to you personally, and I'll say it again publicly. I have many times. I think what you're doing today is probably the best show you have ever done, including the version of it on terrestrial radio right after Don and Mike concluded.
Well, I agree with you. I think that I base it on the fun that I have. Even when I was doing the morning show here in Washington, D.C., after I started the podcast, I'd get in my car after that morning show, and I couldn't drive my car fast enough to get to the living room studio to be with my boys and to do the show because it's fun. And, you know, having the show succeed the way it succeeded, the fact that we're, you know, over 3 years now, it's a joy. But, I mean, every day, you know, it's always somebody bringing something different to the table and new ideas coming in. You know, we came up with a great new idea, the Yogurt Maker T-shirts today. That just cracked me up. Yesterday, having Pedals the Clown when Marc Ronnick's friend Lowell came into the studio. It was so much fun. Just you never know when stuff like that is going to happen, and you never can force it. Yeah. It's always organic, and that's what I love about doing it because spontaneous laughs come up like you would have happen with a group of your pals going on a road trip. And that's why we do road trips, because the funny things come out of that show, and you never know whether they're going to stick like Dick Queasy and Jack Cassidy, or whether they'll be a throwaway, or whether they'll resonate with the listeners. But you just keep doing it, and you keep having fun, and I love doing that. And that's what I love about this show. And it also, I've noticed with my listening audience that they allow me and they afford me an opportunity to get serious once in a while. And so when one listener sent me a copy of RFK's speech after Martin Luther King's assassination, I was touched by it. I was moved by it. I thought my listeners would be moved by it as well. And I thought it was a wonderful way to open up the show. And it's this circle of friendship that we have where people will contribute or we'll come up with an idea that'll catch fire. And it just keeps the creative juices flowing, and it keeps me wanting to be edgy and stay on my game. And it's what gets me up in the morning and gets me doing my show prep every day.
At the same time, you seem to get the occasional crap from listeners when you bring up a serious topic, like recently covering the gun control debate.
Oh, that's huge. That's a hot button topic no matter what. And It doesn't matter how good your relationship is with your audience. There are going to be differing opinions on that. And it is the most passionate issue that I've ever discussed. And I've gotten political in the past, and my politics are no secret. But that is the issue that caused a lot of people to get upset. And I don't mind that. I mean, as long as it's respectful, you know, and if it's not respectful, I tell you to pound sand. But if you want to disagree with me, that's fine too. We don't take phone calls from listeners on a regular basis. So going on the social networking sites and having the feedback from listeners that way, that's the way I get it. And believe me, I've had more ink spent on that particular issue than any serious issue I've ever discussed.
Yeah, I mean, it's a mixed bag as you watch across Facebook how people respond when you decide to get into a serious topic, whether it is the gun control debate or whether it's just politics. When you were going through the healthcare discussion because you were seeking out your own healthcare, I mean, there were people on both sides of it, and there were some people who were saying, Mike, shut up, get back to the funny. How do you respond? How do you deal with that level of negativity sometimes? Because I know for myself, I tend to take some negativity personally. And,
you always do. I mean, you always take negative comments personally, and if somebody's going to be disrespectful and somebody's going to give you crap, you're going to take it personally. But what I didn't like about, what I don't care for with anybody that's going to say, get back to the funny, if that's somebody who really wants me to be funny, that's fine, and somebody that doesn't enjoy a serious discussion, that's fine. But when it's masking their real agenda, which it normally is, which is, I disagree with you politically, I don't like what you said, and therefore I want you to get back to the funny, I don't think that's really genuine, and that's what I take issue with. But there's some people out there that just say, hey, don't get heavy, and that's what they prefer. Yeah. And if they want to share that, I'm fine. I mean, I take... I've been doing this a long time, and I take a large amounts of praise, many more delightful emails in a week than I do negativity. And as I said, as long as they don't get personal and mention my family or the personal attack on me, I'm fine with that. I get a lot of people that have written me wonderful letters about politics and about gun control and all that stuff. And I'm fine if they want to do that. If it's respectful and they want to have a little, have their little say and vent, that means they're passionate about the show and they listen to what I had to say and they want to give me their viewpoint. I have no problem with that at all. When it crosses a line, and gets just silly personal, then I get pissed off. If they're doing a radio show and they want to be like that, to be compelling and say, grandiose things like people do on a radio show, well, get a radio show. But if you're going to send me a personal message, that's that's not the place for that. The bottom line is they can do it. They have their right to do it, but I have the right to, to shoot back at them as well and say, pound sand. I just don't.
Right.
I don't want it to get, go into the gutter when I'm reading my personal messages from somebody. There's just too much goodwill that's out there, and it to this day, I am stunned by the amount of personal stories that I get on a monthly basis from people about how much the show has meant to them. It will never, ever get old. It is still the number one motivating factor for me doing the show, that people respond to it and we get people through bad times. That's what blows me away. I say thank you, and I periodically try to put that out on social networking sites too, where I tell people, thank you from the bottom of my heart for sharing your personal story with me and letting me know how you feel about the show. The generosity of spirit is mind-boggling to me.
Yeah, you've done it for me. You've done it for everybody that I've spoken to, and obviously you have a huge loyal base, and they get it. They get the show, and when I share the show with other people who have not been exposed to it, I always explain it to them as it's a group of guys, and they're busting balls, but at the same time, it's like a guy's conversation. They're talking about real subjects, things that are happening in their lives. They're very funny, but occasionally, when you're talking with your best buds, you're going to get on a hot topic, and you're going to go down that road. And I think the thing that I love about what you guys do is that you allow each other to speak and you listen.
Well, it is true. And, it's funny when you mention that, because there was a show not too long ago where I was trying to bring something up on online that was relevant to, I think, a previous topic. And I got obsessed with it and I drifted off. And when I did, Oscar called me on it. And I think I got really pissed off at him, but it's because I got caught. And that speaks to the listening part. We all listen to each other. Yep. You can't mess up, because if you say something that people can trip you up on, they're going to call you on it. And I had done that, and that identified for me, boy, we really do listen to each other. We really do hang on everybody's word, for good and for bad. When somebody says something and you can catch somebody on something, there's not a lot of room for error when you're going at this speed and you're doing this show. And I like it that way. I really do.
With that, let's take a short break, and when we come back, we're going to talk about the crew of TMOS and the future of TMOS right here on O'MearaCast.
Hey folks, it's your old buddy Rob Spiewak with a question. Do you miss the way radio used to be? Oh, it might take you a while to remember it, but there was a time when you actually used to listen to the radio for music. Well, thanks to more broadcasting, you still can, because each and every week I do the Rob Spiewak Show, 4 hours of boss radio that is fast, funny, and it is fun. Check it out, robradio.com, and don't forget the extra B. That stands for music.
Rob Spiewak.
This segment of O'MearaCast is brought to you by RC Kitchens. Don't remodel your kitchen with some cheesy mass-produced cabinet. Get a kitchen custom-made by artists using real wood and quality materials. Contact Rory Callahan at RC Kitchens to get Mercedes quality at Prius prices. RC Kitchens makes it a point to find out exactly what you want and takes the frustration out of remodeling. Estimates from RC Kitchens are guaranteed accurate for both price and the timetable. RC Kitchen serves the DC area all the way to the beaches of Delmarva, but if you're outside the DC area, RC Kitchens might still be able to help you. Just contact Rory Callahan and his crew today at 301-537-3515. That's 301-537-3515, or go to rckitchens.com.
Whatever your situation, when the going gets rough,
Turn on. Tune out of the rat race and its square problems.
that's good advice.
This is O'MearaCast.
Welcome back to O'MearaCast, and let's start talking about the TMOS crew. This crew has come into its own in a whole new dynamic.
I thought it was really going to be all about me, Marcus, not the other guys.
Well, no, because I think
I'm kidding, of course.
This show is all, of course, about you, but
not.
These guys, the way that they support you, I really wanted to talk about their roles and how you see their roles, because I know you've spoken about it before on the show, especially when it comes to Rob. You count on Rob to walk in that studio and bring the funny and to make you laugh. Right. And you expect Oscar to come in the room and be real and be open and be the scab picker.
Right.
And Buzz has been the news guy. You talk to listeners, they count on him for his one-liners. But I have said, even on recent episodes of OMearaCast, that I think Buzz has opened up more and participated more in the show than ever before. So I'm curious, from your perspective, again, what roles do you give these guys, or what roles do you see them dynamically playing on TMOS?
Well, it's important to point out that they're all very expendable. And no, I kid, of course. The roles are as you just define them. I wouldn't change a thing about what you just said. Buzz does what Buzz does and then sits back and hunts and pecks with his one-liners. Oscar is the scab picker, loves to stir things up, which was a great addition to what we had, and it's what I didn't have on the old radio show. I didn't have that guy that would stir the soup like that, would bring it in and cause the controversy when it's needed. I love that. And then Rob, who's the court jester. I mean, he's always trying to please. He's always trying to get off the one-liners, and that's what he does. And then he has the encyclopedic knowledge of what we've done on the show before. He's a musicologist, which is a tremendous asset when we're looking to do bits or when we're looking to add music to the show. And then Rob, personally, nobody makes me laugh harder on air and off air. When Rob and I go on a road trip, he's just a joy to be around. I mean, I talked to him about this when we came back from Florida, that he was exhausted because Rob is on from the minute he wakes up in the morning until the end of the day. And when he's not on, you can really tell. When he's tired, you can really tell, because he does bring it a lot that way. And the only thing I have to do with any of those guys is, be a traffic cop in here. And when we get a good discussion, it's terrific. I mean, when you figure you've got 4 people every day that are all talking at the same time about different subjects, and we really don't stomp on each other that often. It just doesn't happen. There's a flow to it, and you can't manufacture that. That's called chemistry, and that's what makes, as I mentioned before, that drive from the other radio show I was doing. When I was driving back to the chemistry, where I knew it was, the subjects that were going to come up were going to be handled. They'll throw anything, they'll handle anything that I throw at them.
Yeah.
And that's what I love about doing it. And then once in a while, you get just something that happened in one of their lives, as well as mine, where, we get a whole show out of it and we have a blast. And then throw in on top of it, a couple of years ago when we did the first road trip, and we discovered we like this. We like it because it creates more content, bonus content that we can market to our listeners, as opposed to putting our hands out for donations.
Yeah.
And it's good stuff. Like the most recent edition is what we're going to do with the Spring Break Raw series, which is an audio series that we're going to make available to people.
Oh, I'm so disappointed. I was waiting for the video of the elevator ride.
Yeah, Jimmy and I don't think we videotaped that. We snuck out on our own. But the video is going to be, the Spring Break video series, the Spring Break home movies.
Yeah.
With, both these products, I'm telling you, for people that love the show, that are passionate about the show, I am so confident that they're going to be really pleased with it. And I wouldn't sell this shite if I didn't think it was good. And it always, I hate to say it because it sounds egotistical, but it exceeded my wildest expectations. And when we make that available, I'm excited not only to obviously monetize the show, because that's what we call our specialty content. It's part of our business model, but to get the reactions from people after they hear some of the behind the scenes stuff that really went down. And I'd like to apologize in advance. My language and some of the worst rants that you will ever hear in your life.
Well, that's why it's called Raw. That way we can take it in. We're willing to pay for that. I'm more than willing to pay for the fuck yous and the assholes.
It's so much fun, and when you've got that many guys traveling with that many different personalities, and then you throw a few other abnormal personalities like Jimmy Cerrito into the mix, it's great. But my point was, traveling with the guys, we said, oh my God, not only does this work for the show, but it's also fun. I mean, we get excited. It shakes things up. It keeps it fresh. It keeps it alive. And that, more than anything else, is where I see the show on a yearly basis going, where we're going to create new adventures and we're going to come up with new adventures. And that's how my challenge always when we were doing bonus content was, how do you keep it organic? How do you keep it fresh? How do you keep it real? And I love doing live shows, and we'll continue to do live shows, and that's a big deal. But discovering this kind of road trip thing is really exciting for me because it's unlimited. It's just a question of financing it to get there and getting the sponsors that allow us to do it, and then making sure that people still want it and desire it. And if all those things fall into place, I see really, really great opportunities in the future.
One of the things to not get off the roles and responsibilities of people that are there. Obviously, when it was Don and Mike, you two guys were the front guys. Rob was in the back, sometimes having to yell in order to be heard.
Right.
It was much more siloed. How have you guys, when you developed this show, did you guys sit down and say, look, you guys need to be equal partners on this microphone and in these conversations? Or are you guys just, this comes down to the chemistry again, because Rob, when you're gone, he really does a great job of filling in, and he can take on the show himself. And I think that shows an extraordinary talent on his part that I'm not sure we felt necessarily back in the D&M days, because he wasn't necessarily allowed, because he wasn't a front man of the show.
Well, I think that evolved, and when Dom, went on to pursue his career in a different direction, Rob and I fused into a partnership, kind of a co-hosting role, and then we threw Oscar into the mix, and we're all radio hosts. That's what I put on my many medical applications that I fill out on a daily basis. And, Rob's a co-host. He's a radio host. And I would really hope that when I'm not here, which is rare, and that the shows are never going to be the same as when you've got Rob and Oscar and Buzz and Mike in the same room. Yeah. But I would hope that, he's blossomed so much creatively that he doesn't have that big a problem with it, because he's such a big part of the show as it is. When I'm here and when all the principals are, in the room together, obviously you have to have one guy that drives the car and makes it happen. That was the way it was when Don was driving the car, when I was, doing that with Don. Don was the guy that set the table and set the discussion, and that's just the way it was. You always have to have one person. The View's got Whoopi Goldberg to basically steer the conversation. When you have a collaborative effort, someone has to take point, and that's always the way it's going to be.
Yeah.
And I think the way we do it is just really a pleasure to do with these guys.
Now, what about Marc and RJ? I mean, these two guys have become Marc more so because RJ has obviously had a couple of changes in his life that's caused him to change some priorities, have to move away for a while, things of that nature. But Marc has become more integral in the dynamic of the show as well. But it seems like lately you've also been keeping him at home, I assume, to focus on his business responsibilities as far as TMOS is concerned.
Well, I haven't been keeping him at home, Marcus. I mean, it's he has the longest commute of anybody on the show.
Yeah.
And his choice was, if anything, I said to him, hey, listen, you don't have to come in every day if you're going to be more productive for the business side of things at home. And that was that discussion. And so that's why a couple of days a week, he doesn't do the 9-hour trek from his domicile in Maryland to make it in here. So that's what that's all about. But Marc is, is good at what he does, and he's great at the support staff issue, and that's what he is. I mean, the four principals on the show are myself and Rob and Oscar and Buzz, and it's important to have a support staff, but ultimately the on-air portion of what we do is the on-air portion of what we do. And Marc is able to wear many different hats, and Marc loves to perform, and he's got a great sense of humor, and he slides into that. RJ moved on with his life, and RJ was always kind of a guy that would come in and help us out technically, and he's still a friend of the show, and he'll participate when he's here. But as far as a regular participant, RJ's not involved on a daily basis with the show. Yep. But the 5 guys that are, I value their participation, and I value it financially. We split that pie. That's one of the things I decided when I was going to do this. These guys are coming into my living room. We're going to revenue share it. That's how we're going to split the pie up. I'm not going to be the main man, as far as, asking these guys to do what they do and not get some reward out of it. And the fact is, financially, when you leave a lucrative radio situation and you're basically starting a small business, I wanted them to have a financial interest in this as well as me, so that we'd be all hands on deck. I was selfish in that regard. I wanted to make sure that these guys had a vested interest in this product, and I've never regretted that decision, ever. I don't stay up at night going, oh man, I should take more of a piece of the pie. I should do this. No, I'm delighted to split this apple up with them, and they work hard for it. I think they work hard for it, whatever the circumstances were, but I wanted them to be vested in the show.
I get it. As a listener on the other side of it, it comes out. It comes through because of the fact that there's ownership in each one of those guys' participation. So as far as growing the show and moving it beyond, obviously it's important for we, the listener, to participate with your advertisers. That will always be the case. But you also made a statement late last year with the announcement of WTNT that you were going to be seeking out affiliates even more. This was going to be one of the initiatives you were going to pursue in 2013. Is that still the case?
Well, what it is the affiliates it's an interesting subject, because if you gave me a perfect world, the perfect world would be, I would garner my goal is to get as many people to listen to the show as possible. However I get there is however I get there.
Yeah.
But I really think that in a perfect world, I love my online show. I love the way it feels. I like the rhythm of it. Then I had to reformat it for radio. It didn't affect the content. It didn't affect the flow. And so when we were able to do the podcast and format the podcast with our commercial breaks for radio and deliver it to radio stations, I said to myself at that point, let's see what we can do with affiliates. So far, I haven't had any change in affiliates. They're not knocking my door down. Yeah. I think radio people are radio people. They scare me. Radio suits scare me. But if that was to happen and we were to grow that way, that's fine. In a perfect world, I'd rather just have all my listeners online and see how that goes. But if getting more radio affiliates grows this program and gets more people to listen to it, that's what I'm all about. I'm not going to burden myself with the concept of resurrecting my radio career. That's not really important to me. What's important to me is doing a good show and getting as many people to listen to it as I possibly can. That's the only reason for a pursuit of any kind of radio affiliation. The more people that hear it, the more people that like it, the more people that think it's funny. That's job one. And if I got all of those people by delivering it online, I'd be more than happy that if that was the way it went from this point forward. If I get more people by getting radio affiliates and nobody interferes with my content, I'm fine with that as well.
So from your perspective, I know you commented on the show that you thought the listener initiative was very successful. Do you think that it's waning a little bit? Because it had a bit of a pickup. I could feel it. You could see it in the social networks. Or do you see that the listeners are still garnering more listeners for you? To carry that further, what else can we do? How can we help you?
That's a great question. That's a wonderful question. And the listener initiative we had was blew me out of the water. And we have numbers to back it up that, the participation spiked. The visitors spiked. It just was incredible. Of course it's going to wane when we're not putting it top of mind, and I don't want to ask for it on a regular basis. But I think 4 or 5 times a year we can do that and say to people, hey, it's time for another new listener initiative. And the response was incredible from people. I mean, I'm so satisfied with that part of my career right now where people they are so into this show that they feel like they're partners and they want to promote it. And so many people responded to that. I'll do that again. I think when you say it waned, well, it wanes because we're not talking about it all the time. And that's just natural.
Yes.
The show doesn't go backwards. The show continues to grow. I'd love it to grow faster. Everybody would. There's not anybody probably that wants to go to any kind of mass market that doesn't want to get as many as they can every day and have it grow every day. But I'm really satisfied with the way that worked, and I will do that again. As far as what more listeners can do, that's always a challenge. And anybody that listens to the show knows that we're challenged by that and that we're always thinking about ways to do it. We've spent money doing it. We've reached out to people doing it, and we're going to continue to try to come up with creative ideas to grow the show. But that new listener initiative, I don't even remember. I don't bog myself down with who thought of it or whose idea it was. But when we decided to do that, I was delighted with the response and the way it worked out. And I'll continue to do that. Having shows like O'MearaCast and what you do, where you've taken your passion for the show and turned it into a subject that allows you to do a show every week, that's fantastic too. And that's why, I think that I was happy with the very first show of its kind, which is This Week in O'Meara. But then, your show, you took it in a different direction, content-wise, which I like a lot. It allows people to get really deep into what we're doing. And if people are passionate about something, I watched The Good Wife. I'd watch or listen to a show that was talking about the characters' lives on The Good Wife, or listeners that loved it as much as I did. All of it's good. And I'll tell you, as far as new ideas and coming up with new ideas, that's a challenge. It'll always be the challenge as far as what we do. And there'll be more to come. We're always thinking. We're always trying to grow it.
Thank you for the compliment. The show in itself, I think, has evolved quite a bit since I started it. But I would agree with you that this show is basically using the format of TMOS to do what you guys do in Facebook all the time, which is continue the conversation beyond the 2-hour show that you guys do every day.
Right. I think that it goes deeper and it's fun, and I've listened to it. I mean, I knew what I was going to, expect going into this show. I like talking about this, seriously, and what the behind the scenes thing gives me a chance for, to get out to listeners that might not understand what goes on behind the scenes, get to know me a little bit better, serious discussion about the show and what we do, and, not constantly doing the shtick. We get serious once in a while, but this is pulling back the curtain in a very serious way, and I don't mind doing that either.
But, there's a part of me that just really wants you to do Brian Butterfield right now.
Well, Marcus Serta, I will tell you right now, you're in Vermont. Yes, he is in Vermont, and he is doing his show during the middle of the day while he's playing hooky from his regular job after he came back from San Diego.
Oh, God.
Thank you, Marcus Serta.
Oh, you're the man. On the Brian Butterfield.
That's right. He is a nice man when he's not drinking.
That's right. With Brian Butterfield, recently you guys had a topic concerning songs and earwigs. Are there voices that become earwigs for you? Because I see that there are times, like Brian Butterfield, where the Brian Butterfield will last for more than just one opening segment. It's a week-long thing, and it seems to just be stuck in your head.
Oh, yeah, and then and road trips in particular, that goes back to the old Don and Mike days. We wouldn't go on a road trip. We would have a voice for every trip we did. We would always have a voice. And the funny thing was we'd all do it. And Don and I did that, and then the other show did it, and we did it on our most recent road trip. And we occupied our time when I was riding in the SUV down to Florida. We occupied our time not by listening to music, by going on to YouTube and playing stand-up comedy segments and playing different bits that were from Saturday Night Live. Or, hey, Oscar, did you hear this? I cannot believe you didn't hear this. Or Rob would say, did you ever hear this? And, the technology, it's just in one of the areas of, the technology's helped me in my career so much. But another area, even a car trip, popping on something from YouTube that was a great comedy bit from 20 years ago, just that kind of stuff. There's always a voice. There's always something that gets in your head, and you stay with it. And you hope that you don't burn your audience out on it, and you hope that they are able to track with it and get it. And not everybody's going to get everything all the time. It's not going to work that way. But yeah, that's constant. That's a theme of my existence. Is there's always some particular. Jack Cassidy was like that, and I had no idea that would resonate with our listeners. And when it did, now we're getting these tapes in from people. A guy in London and Toronto, and on a ski slope, and in St. Peter's Square. Jesus, it's gratifying. It's so much fun to do what I do. I know it's not I'm blessed. And I mean that. I mean that sincerely. This is a delight to have people that are that into it.
Well, when you were on terrestrial radio, as I experience all the time still, listeners will do just about anything for nothing. They will stand in the middle of the street in their underwear if they need to in order to win the stupidest prize. And in this particular case, you've given them the dream come true to sit with Rob and listen to him all day and hang out with him and be around you guys. All they have to do is wear a T-shirt and be in an unusual place and yell, "I'm Jack Cassidy!" So it's not that hard.
Marcus, some might call that a nightmare to spend an entire day with Rob. I'm not sure, that's how I would call that a nightmare scenario. Some people are considering that to be a winning a prize. I'm stunned by that, but yes, it's an entire day with Rob, and they're pouring in now. And we used it as a cheap shill to sell T-shirts, and look what happened out of that deal. To hear people, a guy on a ski slope the other day screaming out Jack Cassidy as he's going down a ski slope. Or, I walk in to perform with the United States Marine Band, a pretty dignified gig, as I was doing a narration with the Marine Band, and there's a guy in the lobby, and I'm getting there for a dress rehearsal an hour and 45 minutes before the show, and there's a guy already there wearing a Dick Queasy T-shirt. I mean, I love this stuff, and I don't need, a million people to do it. It's just to know that there's a segment out there that's passionate about it. It's a rush. So every time it happens, it's a rush.
As I did this past week when I traveled to San Diego, I wore my TMOS shirt through the airports, on the plane, wherever I go when I know I'm going to be public. I'm wearing a shirt that I think is going to promote the show. Even recently with Vistaprint as being one of your advertisers, I use them to create window stickers to put on my car to advertise the show, whatever it takes. And your listeners are so passionate about the show. They're so much more engaged than a terrestrial radio listener ever was, that they're willing to do those kinds of things. It's amazing.
And that's why, Marcus Serta, I will make sure that you are one of the first recipients of our latest product, the Yogurt Maker T-shirt, which will be going into mass production within the next 2 weeks. And this was an idea that I had this very morning, simply watching the Today Show in a cooking segment when they mentioned Yogurt Maker. For some reason, that hit my funny bone. I threw up the trial balloon. I believe that has already struck a chord with our very twisted listening audience. And we're not sure exactly what the phrasing is going to be, or whether it's simply going to say Yogurt Maker. But, you'll be one of the first people to get a copy of that T-shirt.
Thank you. I appreciate it. And I hope that it says something like Yogurt Maker, fruit on the bottom.
See, that's it. Everybody wants to do it. Then you find the perfect collaborative idea as it comes out. You're obviously putting your wonderful twisted mind on it already. I love that.
Oh, yeah, totally. And with that, let's take a quick break. And when we come back, I have some questions about more broadcasting right here on O'MearaCast.
Hey, everyone. Mike O'Meara here.
And hey, I'm Rob Spiewak.
We just want to remind you guys that we never listen to the Marc and Lowell show.
No, we're just kidding. This is really Oscar Santana.
And this is Buzz Burbank. How you guys doing? Listen, Marc and Lowell have a great show that they put together for you guys, so we really think that you should listen.
Or maybe not.
Or maybe not. Nah, all right, let's let them know the real deal. This is Mark Ronick.
And this is Lowell Melser.
So please, we're begging you, listen to our show. You'll like it.
You're crazy, man.
The Marc and Lowell Show.
Every Thursday, you can get it on iTunes, markandlowell.com, or morebroadcasting.com.
Resistance is futile. It's the Marc and Lowell Show.
This segment of O'MearaCast is brought to you by the sponsor of the TMOS Spring Break Road Trip, the Institute for Liberty and their partner, Fan Freedom. Your right to independently buy and sell tickets is under siege. Big corporations, venue managers, and team owners are trying to force you to buy and sell in the markets they choose. That means you have to pay their fees and follow their ridiculous rules. The Institute for Liberty and their partners at Fan Freedom are pushing back against these efforts in Florida, Tennessee, California, and across the country. You bought it, you own it. Protect consumer rights and your property rights. Visit fanfreedom.org and learn more about the Institute for Liberty.
A few hours ago, you thought a little excitement would kill you. Now look at you.
This is O'MearaCast.
Welcome back to this segment of O'MearaCast, and I'm still talking with Mike O'Meara. So let's get into more broadcasting. Obviously, TMOS is the show. It's the anchor, but you have more broadcasting. So within it, you've got Wrapped Up, Tech 411, Marc and Lowell, my show, and Rob Radio. But tell me, what is your plan? What are your thoughts about more broadcasting? Are there plans to build it out? Are there more shows in the future? Or is really the focus on TMOS?
The focus is definitely on TMOS. I think that the other shows are value added, and they're terrific for people that want more. And I heard a sound. Did we lose the connection there?
Nope, we're still here.
Okay. I'm not sure. I don't have a good answer for that. I like having these shows. I keep them limited. I turn down a lot of people that want to do shows on the network. I'm not sure how it works from a business model standpoint just yet. So I'll have to get back to you on that. I'm not sure. I like these shows. I like what we have right now. I'm not sure from a business standpoint what direction that's going to go in. So that makes the focus on the Mike O'Meara show and growing our show and getting it bigger and better and bigger and better. That's what I have to focus on right now.
The reason I brought it up is somebody mentioned that Chad Dukes had made a comment maybe a year or so ago concerning the possibility of a Chad Dukes, Oscar Santana, Mike O'Meara, Rob Spiewak show of some kind coming out in the future. So obviously there are listeners and who are passionate for anything that you're going to put out.
I don't remember hearing Chad say that. Chad and I are friends, and the four of us in a room together I already know it would be terrific. The chemistry is already there. Yep. We've done enough shows with Chad and Oscar, and I'd love to see something like that. That'd probably be a one-time shot. Where we do that just once or twice. I don't know. I'd love to do something like that, even though Chad stole my job.
I could see a really great, what I'd love to hear as a listener is an inside terrestrial radio behind the scenes. It's almost like I'm waiting for your book to come out. You guys together talking about the ins and outs, the goods and the bads, and the history of what you guys have gone through over the years, because radio has changed so significantly. I've been doing it on a part-time basis for 20, 25 years now, and even for me, it is just watching it casually, it has significantly changed in such a way that here in the Burlington area, there are 2 locally owned radio stations, and that's it. Otherwise, everything else is owned by one of the major syndicators, and so it's either iPod radio or it's syndicated programming only. And
it's terrible.
Yeah.
And it's terrible to listen to in any market you go in now. And when they watered it down, and when they homogenized it, and when they corporatized it, and everything became the same, and you have 2 or 3 shows that everybody hears in every market, and it's good for them. But the old days of having tremendous amounts of local programming and local shows, you get that online now. And I think there's a tremendous market for it. We wouldn't have advertisers if there wasn't.
Yep.
Locally in radio, and the saddest thing for me, really not because I'm not on, it's just because I listen to local radio in D.C., and it's, Jesus, give me something.
Yeah.
And it's frustrating, I mean, how much right-wing talk and sports analysis can a person absorb in a given week? And once again, the corporate entities have watered down our culture, and they've done it in radio, just like they've done it in cinema and they've done it in television. And it sucks. I mean, thank God for the HBOs of this world, where there's still creative stuff.
The fact that when I listen to local talent and the local talent, they can't even relate to us locally. They're only talking about national broad term issues. It's like, come on, you live next door to me, pal. Why can't you talk to me like you live here? Why do you have to talk to me as though I'm just, this is the Channel 7 News, and you're just covering world history? It's ridiculous.
I mean, to me, the fun of radio would be, let's just say it's talk radio, where you'd go into a market, any given market, and you'd have 5 or 6 really viable alternatives. I'll even say 5 or 6 in morning drive and afternoon drive, where you could, you'd click, you do your little channel surf, and you hop around and you find something that speaks to you, and it doesn't exist anymore. Everybody is in radio now, I think both on the corporate level and on every level, is settling. We settle. We really do. And it's frustrating. It really is. You look at the fragmentation of the ratings in these markets. A lot of these shows aren't garnering tremendous ratings. What they're garnering is advertiser dollars. And it's just this big corporate deal. And I think the specialty aspect of podcasting is why is where the entertainment is. You find the people that speak to you. You find the people that you think are funny. And the challenge is to get that to more of a mass market so that people, just like they do with your cable television channels, you can have more opportunities, more choice, more variety.
And I think that's the hardship that happens with podcasting. I read an article. Boy, my English is good. I read an article recently, and it was about podcasting from the aspect of podcasting is a really bad name. It was a good name when the technology first came out. But even recently, when I was in San Diego and I was talking with media people, because I'm in the advertising business, and I'm talking to them about podcasting, I'm relating to it as, look, it's not podcasting in the traditional sense where you have your iPod and you just take it where you go. It's on-demand radio. It's like DVRing a show that you like to watch on TV, because nobody sits for destination TV anymore unless you're into Game of Thrones or there's some big sporting event or something of that nature. Everybody DVRs their programming. Now,
right. I do it even with the shows that I'm passionate about. I hardly ever watch my appointment television when it comes on, when it comes out. I don't do that. And that's exactly what people do with this show. And I see your point. I think podcast is kind of an antiquated term, and it kind of speaks to people still picture the guy in the basement that's doing that. And distance myself. I think if you remember going back to the early days of my podcast, I made a very, very, very significant point to separate myself from those type of guys. And when I first told the world that I was going to go online, I had a lot of different podcasters reach out, and they still reach out to me with that kind of stuff. And I don't mean to say I'm above it all. I'm all for everybody, going through their process to get their voices out there. But the fact is, what we do is a professional show delivered by professionals, and we do it every single day, and we work hard to put it on, and we have professional people that put it on, and this is the kind of entertainment you would hear credibly on any radio station. It's just they're afraid of it, and the budgets aren't there for it, and that's the primary reason you don't hear this on a lot of radio stations or even a local radio station. The idea, even when I was hired to go back on the radio for the time that I did, it was, can you do it by yourself? And I said, well, to feed the family, and at that time I wanted to get back on the air, I'll do it. But my ideal world is to bring this show onto the radio. Well, it's just not worth it. It's not worth the hassle for me, and it's not worth the time and the hassle for radio corporations. And if that's the way they feel, I'm very happy doing what I'm doing right now. And that's the way, if that's the way it's got to be, that's the way it's got to be. Challenge, once again, gets back to getting it out to the masses and getting more people to do it. And people listening to this right now, if you're passionate about it, share, share, share. Bring everybody into the party. It's always going to be a slow slog to get them. But I like to think, Marcus, when we get them, we hold them. And that's been the real joy of doing this also. We really don't lose listenership. We don't. We gain it. We hold on to a lot of it.
Yeah.
And people don't, they might go for a while and come back. But even that, people are pretty passionate about this thing.
No, and it speaks to, again, the dynamic and the way that you guys not only present yourselves, but work with each other. It really does allow us in, and we feel like flies on the wall in a conversation amongst friends. Right. And whether it's the ball busting or it's just some casual conversation, we're in there and sharing it. And I think at the same time, and maybe you can give me an anecdote or two, because we feel very close to you guys. And I'm sure that there have been moments where we, the listener, have been a little too close. I mean, you're doing your show out of your living room. When you were doing D&M, I don't think anybody probably had your home address. I have a feeling there are probably more people who know where you live now.
Yeah, probably, and it doesn't bother me. I mean, it's there's an occasional issue with something like that. There are people that whenever you do this kind of broadcasting, and I'm talking about radio broadcasting, it's an intimate form of media. It's a one-on-one form of media, and people think they know you, and sometimes people can get confused by that and realize that they know everything about you when they really don't. And sometimes people can test the boundaries of privacy. And when they do that, they've got to be made aware that that's not the right thing to do. And I've been doing this a long, long time. And I have no problem doing that. I have to be mindful when I'm out in public and when I'm talking to people that I value their listenership and that I don't take for granted their passion for the show. But there are lines that you have to set up that you don't want crossed, and I've had that happen throughout my radio career. Don and I were very fortunate to be very, very popular and very successful early on, and so I've been used to it for a long time. But somebody rolls up to me, and I'm in Toronto, Canada, or I'm in Los Angeles, or I'm anywhere in the country, and somebody wants to roll up and say, "Hey, man, I just want to say I love that thing you said about your wife or the baby or whatever." I love that. I welcome that. I've done that for many, many years. I never shy away from people that are supportive of what I do, because I recognize the intimacy of the relationship I have with the listeners. It has to be respected, but it's just like I used to say to people: you want to come up and chat or say you listen, you'll be more than welcome. If you think that the fact that I'm a public figure entitles you to approach me in a negative way and insult me publicly or doing something, that's crossing the line. And it's a real easy thing, and I don't have to worry about it that often because people really don't do it that much.
And I've seen people at meet and greets before be really shy about approaching you, but you have made yourself really available. And I think the only rule that we need to continue to remember as listeners is brush your teeth first.
You're right about that. Many, many times. I'll tell you, I've had some wonderful face-on-face. Floss. I think that's the key, Marcus. It's flossing. Flossing seems to be something I recommend wholeheartedly to everybody in the listening audience.
So
we have listeners from every walk of life, every economic level, from men, women, old, young, everybody. And the best thing, I'm not a kid anymore, and when I get a father and son that like we did most recently down in Florida, where a whole family came out to a meet and greet, and dad and the son, their bonding topic was the Mike O'Meara show. Try that on for a while and see how you like that. That was the greatest moment. I love stuff like that people bond. You got to be, if you're accessible, that's it. And part of the growth of the show is based on us periodically getting out and doing meet and greets and reaching out and talking to people, because a lot of people, more so than the radio shows, this incarnation of the show, people want to see you once in a while. They want to make sure you get out there once in a while, and you have to. That comes with the territory, and we like doing it, and we have a lot of fun doing it, and we'll continue to do it.
No, and thank you for doing it. We need to take one last quick break in order to help Mike pay the bills. So let's do that. And when we come back, more conversation with Mike O'Meara right here on O'MearaCast.
Hi, this is Steve Jobs.
And this is Bill Gates.
And if you want to be a multi-billionaire, you got to listen to Tech 411.
Yeah, that's because we give you all our secrets and we don't hold back at all.
And we're at the intersection of what?
Technology and entertainment, people. And it's not just all tech. We're having a good time over here, and we're going to make you laugh. Listen to show number 49. Well, look, we got 1 out of 50 shows that was really funny.
Yes.
And you should listen to that one.
So at least there's something.
There's one good show.
You can find us at MikeO'MearaShow.com or iTunes. Again, it's called The Tech 411 Show with Bill Gates
and Steve Jobs.
Ciao, ciao.
Later.
More Broadcasting. For more information, visit us at morebroadcasting.com.
This segment of O'MearaCast is brought to you by the Mike O'Meara Show animated series. You could download the Shrine Studio cartoons for just $2.99 each, or subscribe to the whole series for just $15. Season 3, Episode 4 is available right now. It's a great episode. It's all about Frankie. Check it out at MikeO'MearaShow.com today. That's the Mike O'Meara Show animated series, available only at MikeO'MearaShow.com.
What the hell is that? That's the most exciting thing in the world.
This is O'MearaCast.
Welcome back, and before I let you go, thank you for being very generous with your time. But I want
This was a wonderful 15-minute interview, Marcus. Hey, kids, young broadcasters out there, let me just tell you this. Here's the key. Mr. Serta is a good interviewer because I said 15 minutes at the beginning of this, and little did I know that his interview skills would be so superlative that he would that it would be a seamless 1-hour interview with Marcus Serta, just because it speaks to your skills as an interviewer. And I like interviewers, and I like good interviews, and I think you've done a good job.
Because it's just you and me, pal. It's just conversation between you and I, two friends having a fun inside conversation about what's happening in the world.
That's right.
Let me talk to you about your family, because obviously they're extremely important to you. They've been the most important thing in your life. Talking about Catherine and Elizabeth, obviously your two daughters, one of them about to graduate. You are about to be a new father again. Congratulations.
Thank you.
On that particular subject matter, how are Catherine and Elizabeth taking it? I mean, and I only ask from the aspect of I have a 22-year-old and a 16-year-old and had a conversation with them concerning a possibility of a new child in my life. And both of them gave me that look like...
Is this a scoop?
No, it's not a scoop, but it's something that has been working on for a while and been brewing. But they gave me that look like, Dad, are you crazy? Are you nuts? So I'm just wondering if your kids, how they've responded, because it's also been acknowledged that they like to give you a hard time.
I think when you do something unconventional and something happens in your life that's unconventional, you may not always get the real deal. You'd have to really talk to them about that and see how they would feel. I know that they've been very supportive of me and of Carla, and I know that they were probably a little concerned at the beginning, but they love the idea of having a little brother on the way, and they're the greatest kids in the world, and they know how much I love them, and we're going to be one big happy family. And I think that it's not as uncommon as it used to be to be an old fart like me bringing a new life into the world. And I've got a great wife, Carla, who's going to be a great mom. And I'm already thinking about what the Christmas card's going to look. I don't do the family picture Christmas cards, but I'm afraid I'm going to have to break that this coming holiday season, because I'm just picturing everybody in one picture with the baby and my beautiful daughters, Catherine and Elizabeth, and my wife, Carla. I'm excited about it. And I think that they've been very supportive. The important thing really in my situation, with two daughters from a previous marriage, is maintaining my relationship with my daughters, which is fantastic. We're fresh off a wonderful evening going to the hockey game last night. I can't believe that they have suddenly, I don't know, like a light switch, gotten into hockey, and they love to go to the games with me. And I have just a lot of laughs with them and a great relationship. And Catherine, God bless her, is, going to college in the fall, and she got into her first choice and got early admission. And I'm very, very happy with the way they are. They're the greatest kids in the world. I love them so much. I got a lot of love to go around, and I'm very fortunate to have all these people in my family, and the idea of having a son is terrifying, exhilarating, incredible, all those things at once.
Before we get on to the subject specifically about your son, I would like to ask you, and this is probably more personal to me because of the fact that I am a part-time dad myself. So I'd like to ask you about how you felt all these years about being a part-time dad. Because believe me, I understand how difficult it can be, how powerless at times it feels. And so I'm just wondering how you have felt over these years. I mean, it sounds like you guys have a great relationship, and that's wonderful. But do you feel like you've missed anything along the way?
Oh, sure. I think you know that you've missed some things. That's the reality of it. Somebody told me, I don't remember who it was, but it was very wise. They said to me that when you go through a divorce and you have children involved, that's the best thing and the worst thing. Yeah. The worst being that, you're not going to be in their lives on a daily basis. And, my ex-wife and I have joint legal custody of my daughters, so I've been very involved in their life, but I am not there at all times for all things. And that does leave a hole in your life to a certain extent. But the important thing, once again, is finding your way and maintaining the relationship with your kids, which I have done, and I have done it successfully, and I'm very lucky to have done that successfully. And you make your way. You have to adapt. You have to go on with your life. You can't let bumps in the road sidetrack you. And just fresh in my mind with my daughters last night and the relationship that I still have with them. I love them so much, and we have such a great relationship. And you can't. I think for people that might be going through a divorce that were their children involved, I urge people that I talk to in my private life, friends of mine that might go through a similar thing. You can't have everything, and you can't go nuclear in a situation like that. You can't have War of the Roses, because War of the Roses is ultimately going to hurt people. And if there are children involved and they're going to get hurt, you have to take the bullet yourself, and you have to take the pain yourself, because the reward is where I'm at right now.
Yeah.
Getting the reward at the end of the line. I'm getting the relationship with my daughters, and it's not going anywhere. It's there forever. And that's the reward. The short-term vindictive joy of a divorce and getting assets and money and all that. If you're short-sighted, and if there's one thing you don't want to be short-sighted about, it's a divorce situation where there are kids involved. When you go through that, you've made the mistake. Your spouse has made the mistake. You guys are undergoing that failure. That's your screw up. Try not to involve your kids in it, because if you do, you might have a short-term, I got that victory. I got over on her. But ultimately, if other people are going to get hurt, it's not worth it. It's not worth. There's no money that's worth that. It's better just to have good relationships with people in life, and that's true. That doesn't take. There's an a-hole at the ball game. I'll tell him to shut the hell up.
Now, as far as the new boy, congratulations again. I can't say it enough, because I mean it's so wonderful. I'm sure, even though you've got two wonderful daughters and great relationships, this is a boy. You've got a boy, man.
Oh, I'm psyched. I am. Last night I was talking about on the show this morning that we had dad with looked like he was taking a little birthday party. God, I hope they weren't all his, but he had 4 or 5 of these 9-year-old boys with him in front of me. They looked to be about 8, 9, or 10. And I was looking at that. I look at kids that age now. I look at little boys running around, and I laugh my ass off, because I am so exhilarated and looking forward to that part of it. I'm thrilled to death and scared at the same time, doing it all over again. But boy, I mean, to have a son, I'm into all those kind of father-son things. My father was into the Red Sox with me. He was into Buddy Rich music, the big band music, sharing things with a son. Daughters are great. I love my daughters more than anything in the world. The idea of having a son to share stuff with is fantastic. I couldn't be more excited.
What happens when your son grows up and he says, "Dad, I'm going into radio"?
When my son is old enough to say, "Dad, I'm going into radio," I probably won't be able to hear him or process what he said. So I'm not going to occupy myself with those thoughts.
Is that a significant? I mean, you've joked about it, but is it a significant fear for you, the fact that your son, by the time he graduates from high school, you're going to be a little older?
it's not a fear, it's a reality. And you have to accept that reality. And the fact of the matter is I have a wife who's much younger than I am. And she, even back when we were talking about getting married, she wanted the normal things that a person her age wanted. Yeah. And she deserves that. And she's going to be a great mom. And I'm very young at heart, and I'm not young of body. I need to work on that. But I think that I really look forward to, the future, and it's going to be fun, and staying, in the game as long as I can to have a great relationship. Do I worry about that? Of course. You're not an older father without that thought in your mind that you may not be around for, every aspect of that kid's life. Yeah. But that's the reality of it, and I don't dwell on thoughts like that. I'm looking forward to the future, and I'm excited about it. And I'm excited about the summer when we're going to have a newborn running around, and I look forward to showing him on the camera to everybody when he comes into the world.
We look forward to that. We also look forward to the crying in the middle of the show, which will disrupt the show because you'll be distracted.
That's something we can look forward to. God knows how that's going to play out, but it should be interesting. Stay tuned.
So as the conversation, I'm just curious because, like I said, I've had this conversation with my wife.
How long is your show, incidentally?
It's as long as I want it to be.
Oh, my God.
If you want me to shut up, I'll just shut up.
No, you're not shutting up, but we got to wrap this up here. I'm doing motorcycle riding.
All right. So let me just wrap it up with this then. I want to finish off with your health because you have talked about it recently.
God damn it. No.
Come on.
My health?
Yeah, because recently you've talked about you are doing some things. You have struggled with your weight over the years.
You think?
And then you've got 3 other guys who are all dying from a variety of things. You've got Oscar, who's going to be, dead by the time he gets back from the bird flu. You've got Rob's calicolitis. You've got who knows what's happening with Buzz. He could go at any minute.
Right.
But as far as you, how are you feeling these days? Because it does sound like you're trying to do some things, change the way you're eating. You're not changing the way you're drinking, which is probably your biggest problem.
Oh, stop it, Marcus. Of course I'm not trying. All things in moderation, including moderation. That's my mantra.
Okay. All right.
That's the way I look at it, Marcus. Sort of all things in moderation. And no, I think that I don't do nearly the same things that I used to do 20 years ago or even 10 years ago. You can't do that. You can't get to be 53 and live like you were when you were 33. It's impossible. You have to moderate on all things. And as far as eating the right way, I'm so lucky to have Carla in my life because she stands over me and makes sure that I do that correctly. And the weight, always a challenge, always will be. And you have to be mindful of that. And I think ultimately I'm making more of an effort to get moving a little bit more and move around a little bit and not be as much of a schlub. And you got to do that. And, this baby coming is going to do nothing but motivate me to do that more and more.
No, I understand. And I only ask and I only go there for 2 reasons. One, as a listener, I want the show to go for another 20 years.
You're a pain in the ass, Marcus.
I've got to do something on this show that makes me stand out a little bit because you do one hell of an impression of me. Between you and Rob, I don't know if I've become more popular than the dueling Michael McDonald's or not, but the 2 of you going back and forth doing my voice saying, "Have you ever been a tree before?"
Hey, how you doing? I'm Marc Caserta. I'm up here in Vermont. How's everything going? Yes, sirree. 1 hour and 4 minutes for a 15-minute interview. My God.
Well, thank you for your time. I will let you go so you can go take your bike ride. You've been extremely generous. And please, my best wishes to your entire family and the entire crew. And thanks for everything, pal.
Let me tell you one final word here. No, I'm not generous. What you are is generous by promoting this show and by getting the word out. I enjoyed every single second of this. You're right. I would have stayed on for